地を踏みしめて君は目覚めてゆく天使の微笑みで連れ出して孤独でも一人じゃないさ生まれてきたことに必ず意味がある You can smile again 太陽浴びて You can fly away 世界は君の輝きを待ってる大地を踏みしめて君は目覚めてゆく天使の微笑みで連れ出して始まりはいつでも遅くないさ何度でも立ち上が
れ Episode 10 of the MultiMangaverse, the first release of the new year. Happy New Year to you. This is Alan, hoping that you're doing well. Got into the new year safe and sound, and so far so good for this new year. I'm okay, family's okay, got into the new year without any trouble. The only reason I got started on this so late is because we didn't have data. Only got data a week ago. So with that, I just took the time to go through my notes, polishing up everything since I was back online again, because initially with the notes that I had compiled while I was offline, I thought maybe I could just record with what I had. But after going through the notes, realizing there's a lot of information missing. So I just decided to hold off until I was back online and then polish up and record. So here we are, Sunday morning, the 22nd of January, 2023. And I'll tell you, I was really worried about today, and it's why I spent most of yesterday copying my notes into this counter book, because I thought maybe I would wake up this morning and find no electricity. So I decided, let me just try and write my notes in the book so that in case there was no power today, I could still record with the notes from the book. Unfortunately, my laptop needs a new battery, so I have to save up to get a new battery, because if there's no power, not even a minute goes before it says 7% remaining. Please plug in. So until I get a new battery, I'll be using the counter book. Lesson learned for next time. What I'll be doing is I'm typing up my notes in the laptop. I'll then transfer them into the notebook, so that just in case we get one of these Sundays where there's no power in the morning, like what happened last Sunday, at least we'll be able to record without any problems. So this episode going forward will be switching between Hunter x Hunter and One Piece. The idea is one episode will be Hunter x Hunter, next episode One Piece, and we keep going like that. So for those of you who are new to this series, the MultiMangaverse, please check the description. If you are watching this from any of the video platforms, there will be a link in the description for the playlist, so that you can catch up. The first 4 episodes we were looking at Hunter x Hunter, and then we switched over to cover One Piece. What I've noticed for the YouTube uploads is the playlist, there's some videos, even though after uploading and everything and I've got the link for the video, they don't appear on the channel. They're not shown in the playlist because the video was partially blocked, copyright reasons. So what I'll do is I'll have to, on BitChute, unfortunately the thing with BitChute is you can only create 4 playlists. If you want to create more playlists, you'd have to pay for them via supporting BitChute. No problem with supporting BitChute, but the options that they have for support, it's either Subscribestar or crypto. And with Subscribestar, I haven't checked, but I would imagine that their prices, I don't know if you can support on Subscribestar via Patreon and PayPal. I'll have to check, but I just hoped if there'd been more options, it would have been fine. So what I would have to do for the time being is I would have to upload the MultiMangaverse into one of my other playlists that are already there. I would have to share playlist, and that's the link that I'll be putting in the description because of what's happening with the YouTube playlist. So please check the playlists and then catch up. Today, episode 10, we are looking at volume 5 of One Piece, Hunter x Hunter, and it's called Family Matters, or in the original Japanese version, Ging Freecss. It was first released on the 30th of April 1999, Japan, and then on the 8th of November 2005, by Viz Media. Contains chapters 36 to 44 and concludes the Hunter exam story arc, and then moves into the quote-unquote unofficial story arc. I say unofficial because Hunterpedia claims it's an unofficial story arc. You'd have to let me know if it is unofficial, but from the Hunter exam arc we go into the Zoldyck family arc from 39 to 43, and then we conclude volume 5 with the beginning of the second story arc, which is Heaven's Arena. So as you can see, we are getting into the story arcs which I think are the defining story arcs of Hunter x Hunter. If you had to ask anyone who's a fan of Hunter x Hunter and you ask them, hey, give me 2 of your favorite story arcs of Hunter x Hunter, one of them will be from Heaven's Arena onwards. So really looking forward to covering those story arcs. So that being said, let's get into volume 5. Chapter 36, Light and Darkness, part 2, which picks right up from where volume 4 ended, with the big revelation of Gitaraka being Killua's big brother Illumi. And if you're following along, if you take a look at the page, Killua, who's usually cool, usually calm, you've seen him from volume to volume. This time though, he's not as cool and calm as he usually is. This time, as you can see, he's uneasy, he's sweating, seeing his big brother in front of him. Leorio, Kurapika, seeing this reveal, they're also shocked. And you can imagine now what Killua must be feeling. And Illumi says to him that he's aware that Killua attacked their mother and one of their siblings, Miluki. And Killua doesn't respond, doesn't deny it. Then Illumi adds that their mother, although having been attacked by Killua, she was actually happy to see Killua display such skills. But she expressed concern about the direction that Killua is headed in. And this is why Illumi was sent to check on him. He's surprised to find Killua having taken part in the Hunter exam. And he explains that the reason Illumi was in the exam was because he needed a Hunter license for an upcoming job. So then Killua, he speaks now, and he says to Illumi, he isn't actually interested in becoming a hunter. He was just curious to see what the exam was like. Illumi is pleased to hear this because as far as he's concerned, Killua would not make a good hunter. He's meant to be an assassin. Then we come back to the present where Satotsu has been telling Gon what happened while Gon was out. He woke up in the previous volume and he found out that Killua had been disqualified because he killed one of the applicants. So Satotsu had to bring Gon up to speed, and Gon, he can't believe Illumi would say that Killua would not make a good hunter. This is despite the fact that Gon found out about the kind of family that Killua comes from, but he's still shocked that Illumi would say this to him. So then Satotsu continues. And Illumi points out to Killua that he does not have any fire, any desire, any usual drive, motivation, because what drives Killua instead is darkness and the pleasure that comes with killing people. This was instilled in Killua by their father and by Illumi. So then Killua says there is a good reason why he's here, although Illumi is not convinced that there's a good reason. But then Killua goes on and he says the reason he's here is because he just wants to be friends with Gon. He's tired of killing. He wants to live a normal life, be a normal kid, having fun with a friend. Illumi just flat out tells Killua that it's impossible. There's no way for Killua to be friends with people. Gon is only a target to Killua, a target that has caught his attention. And if Killua continues to stay close to Gon, someday Killua will kill Gon. Leorio has had enough of this. He steps forward only for Master, one of the officials, to step in and remind him not to interfere in matches. But then Leorio, he understands. So from where he's standing, he shouts to Killua and says not to listen to Illumi. He should just focus on defeating him and pass the exam. As far as being friends with Gon, Leorio says to him that it's not a big deal because so far Killua and Gon have been getting along. They are already friends, right? So Leorio is certain that Gon would think that that's true, they are already friends. Now Illumi is hearing this, and at first he's intrigued to find out that Gon might accept that he and Killua are friends. And then Illumi concludes that it would be a bad thing for Gon to think that way. So then Illumi just concludes that he'll kill Gon. Just like that. The way he reaches this conclusion, the way he delivers the statement. You take a look at the page, the expression on his face, this wide-eyed look. It's as if he's someone who has just reached a solution to a problem, where he's just like, oh, I have it. The only solution to this problem is to kill Gon. And then you get the facial reactions of the other applicants. And what's interesting to note is Hisoka's face. You'd expect maybe Hisoka to show some emotion to this, but as you'd expect, his face is unreadable, despite the fact that he has shown great interest in Gon. But blank expression upon hearing this from Illumi. Then Illumi holds up 3 needles, and he says that assassins don't need friends since they'll be in the way. Killua doesn't respond to this. He's just standing there, continuing to sweat, unable to do anything. Then Illumi asks for Gon's location, and he turns to start walking away from the fight. One of the officials approaches Illumi, telling him that the fight isn't over yet, only for Illumi to throw those needles into the face of this official, and we see his face starting to distort the same way it would change for Illumi when he removes the needles, which would be stuck to his face. And Illumi asks the official again, and the official, in pain now, he tells him where Gon's room is. So as Illumi is making his way to the door of this room, he sees standing at the door, there's Diorio, there's Kurapika, there's Hanzo, the other officials. And this makes Illumi stop, and he makes a comment that, and he really needs that hunter license. But he is aware that if he kills everyone here, he will be disqualified, and that would mean Killua automatically passes. Because if you remember the rule of this final phase, this tournament that Netero has put together, the idea is if someone gets disqualified, the tournament ends, the exam ends, and all the other applicants would automatically pass. So then Illumi also realizes, killing Gon now wouldn't be an option either. So then he comes to another conclusion that it's better for him to pass the exam first and then proceed to kill Gon. Then Illumi asks Chairman Netero if would he lose his hunter exam, his hunter license, if he were to kill everyone who's present after receiving that license. And Netero, he basically tells him that none of the rules say that he can't kill everyone in this room. Basically confirming that nothing would happen to Illumi and his license if he were to kill everyone who's present. So after this, Illumi addresses Killua, and he tells him that if he doesn't stop Illumi here and now, there's no chance of Killua saving Gon. Then he extends his hand to Killua, who starts backing away, only to stop because Illumi says if he makes one single move, that would initiate their fight. Then he continues to pressure Killua, telling him that he's been trained to back away from enemies that Killua can see that they're too strong for him, that he cannot defeat. This was instilled in him by their father and by Illumi. But at this point, there's no other way for Killua to proceed but to confront Illumi, who is stronger than him. And then Leorio, he speaks up, trying to encourage Killua, telling him to fight, and tries to assure him that everyone will step in to stop Illumi before he can kill Gon or he can harm Killua. But in the end, Killua gives in and he forfeits. Illumi, after hearing this, he just pauses for a moment, and then he smiles, and all of a sudden he's happy now. He's glad that the match is over. And then he admits to Killua that he was just joking around, just messing with him. He had no intention of killing Gon. This was just a test. All that pressure, all that that he had said to Killua up to this point, it was just a test. It was just Big Brother messing around with Killua. But then, as Illumi is leaving, he says to Killua that he doesn't have the qualifications to make friends with anyone. Instead, he should just continue to obey their father and do what he's told. If there's a point in time where Killua needs a hunter license, Illumi says he'll be the one to prepare Killua for that. but not right now. And then we come back to the present, where Satotsu concludes his account by saying Killua, after that, did not say anything to anyone. He wouldn't respond even to Leorio or Kurapika, and instead went and isolated himself, only to come back at the start of Leorio and Bodoro's match. And this is where Killua killed Bodoro, and that's what got disqualified immediately. And as Satotsu is saying this, we see Gon racing out of his room, running through a corridor, and he bursts into an auditorium that is occupied by Netero, Buhara, Menchi, Satotsu, the other applicants. And the chapter ends with Gon arriving there, and he's only got eyes for Illumi, whom he spots sitting somewhere in the auditorium. This is how we kick off Volume 5. Gon is out of his room now. He's going to confront Illumi after getting the full story of what happened to Killua. Let's get into chapter 37, Light and Darkness, Part 3. Everyone turns, they see Gon has arrived. Everyone except Illumi. Gon, he makes his way down one of the aisles to where Illumi is seated, gets to Illumi, and he tells him to apologize to Killua. Illumi, the only thing he says to Gon is, "What should I apologize for?" And this catches Gon by surprise. But then he goes on to say, Illumi doesn't have the qualifications to be Killua's big brother. And to this, Illumi says, he wasn't aware he needed qualifications to do for that. And after that, Gon grabs hold of Illumi's right wrist, and he proceeds to lift Illumi out of his seat and place him, just set him down in the aisleway. Everyone is stunned to see this. Even Illumi, with his wide-eyed look, you can see his eyes just opened a little bit wider upon seeing himself being lifted out of his seat. And mind you, Gon is still wearing a sling over his left arm. So with just one hand, he lifted Illumi out of his seat. And after setting him down, Gon says to him that he doesn't need qualifications to be someone's friend. He tightens his grip on Illumi's wrist, and then he turns to leave with Illumi still holding on to him, and he says they're going to find Killua. He doesn't care if Illumi wants to apologize or not. All Gon cares about is Illumi telling him where Gon has run off to, so that Gon can bring him back. So Illumi says to Gon, his actions, the way he's acting right now, it's as if he kidnapped Killua. And if we're going to say to Illumi that he manipulated Killua into leaving, Killua wouldn't have left on his own. So he might as well have kidnapped Killua. It's not too far-fetched. And Netero speaks up and says that is the point why everyone has gathered here. They're here to discuss Killua's disqualification. And Netero says Kurapika and Leorio, they have offered up complaints about the disqualification, stating that there was some outside influence which may have led to the disqualification. Kurapika says Killua's behavior during and after his match against Illumi wasn't his usual character, and Kurapika suspects that Illumi may have had something to do with that. Leorio, he says that Killua attacked Bodoro just as the fight between him and Bodoro was getting started. This could have been seen as Killua interfering to help Leorio. So how come Leorio wasn't disqualified instead when Killua attacked Bodoro? To this, Netero says what Kurapika and Leorio have brought forward are hypotheses without actual proof that Killua was pushed towards killing Bodoro. He says Bodoro and Leorio at the time of their match, they were evenly matched, right? Despite that Bodoro may have had more experience. So there was no reason for Killua to have gotten involved. And then Poco, he speaks up addressing Kurapika over how his match with Hisoka ended and how suspicious that looked. If you remember, during that match, Hisoka whispered something to Kurapika before just forfeiting the match. And to Poco, he finds it very odd that Hisoka would do that, because Kurapika and Hisoka at the time, they were both fit, both ready to face each other. So for Hisoka not to just suddenly forfeit the match, he finds that very odd. Hisoka didn't threaten Kurapika into quitting, which is what happened to Poco. Hanzo, he threatened Poco and Poco forfeited. But in this case, it was Hisoka who just forfeited. So Poco just doesn't think Kurapika's victory should count. It should instead be looked at as unjust, on the same premise as Killua looking at, not Killua, but Kurapika saying that Killua's disqualification is unjust. So Poco wants Kurapika to share what Hisoka whispered to him to clear things up. Kurapika declines to share what was whispered to him, and he counters Poco's point by saying if he has an issue with Kurapika, his victory, then all the other applicants who passed the exam by default after Killua's disqualification, all those victories should also be suspect as well, because Poco is among those applicants who passed the exam by default after the disqualification. So Poco wants to challenge this, but Hanzo speaks up. He's not interested. He just wants to get this over and done with. Gon then speaks up as well. He doesn't care at all about any of this. It doesn't matter. He just says if anyone has an issue with passing the exam, if they can't accept that, they should just go back into training until they are satisfied. He says that if Killua were to take the exam again, he would definitely pass it. But there's nothing that can be done about that now. However, Gon says to Illumi he will not forgive him if it turns out he's responsible for Killua's penchant to murder people. Then Illumi asks Gon what's that supposed to mean to him, not forgiving him for anything. So Gon says to him that he's just going to find Killua and do everything he can to make sure that Illumi can't reach him ever again. So then Illumi, again, what he did to Killua, where he extends his hand forward, he does the same to Gon, only for Gon to release his hold on Illumi's wrist. He just jumps back out of the way, out of caution. He must have realized it wouldn't be a good idea for Illumi to get a hold of him. So after that, Netero speaks up. He agrees with what Gon has just said about anyone having an issue with passing the exam. The final decision has been made. There are no reversals, including Killua's disqualification. So then after that, Netero's assistant, the same official who handed out the number badges at the beginning of the hunt exam. His name will be revealed much later, but for the sake of simplicity, his name is Beans, Beans, Beans. Even if you look at him, he even looks like a bean. But he gets his chance to speak now, and he shares details about the hunter license, revealing that thanks to the advanced technology that has been built into it, the card hunter license cannot be duplicated. And it's thanks to this card that hunters gain entry to 90% of the world's countries and 75% of areas which are otherwise restricted to the general public. Thanks to the hunter license, hunters have free access to 95% of public facilities, and this is all paid for by big banks and major companies. And then Beans reminds the applicants that, he reminds them of how valuable the hunter license is. If you remember, we're told way back in volume 1 that if you were to sell the hunter license, you would make enough money to cover 7 generations of your family. And there's a little statistic that Beans shares that every year there are always a number of hunters who end up losing their hunter license. So again, he stresses that it's important that they should not lose the hunter license or get it stolen. And then after that, he goes on to explain the laws of the Hunter Association. But we don't get to know what those laws are, because we immediately go to the ending of the briefing, where he declares that the 7 remaining applicants are now certified hunters. There's Leorio, Hisoka, Kurapika, Gon, Hanzo, Poko, and Gitaraka/Illumi. So after that, Gon, he asks Illumi to tell him where Killua has gone to. Now Illumi doesn't think Gon chasing after him is a good idea, but Gon says he's Killua's friend, he'll go after him anyway and bring him back. Then Leorio, Kurapika, they show up to back up Gon. And so Illumi decides to tell them, even though he doesn't think they'll even reach the place anyway. But he reveals that Killua has gone back to their family home, which is on the summit of Kukuru Mountain. And that is how we end chapter 37. Let's get to chapter 38, Ging Freecss. You see, Chairman Netero, he wishes all the new hunters well, and he says from now on they are on equal footing as hunters, whether they are working together as allies or they are fighting each other as enemies. And after that, everyone makes their way out. Gon, Kurapika, and Leorio, they leave together, while Hisoka and Illumi, they remain behind and they are observing Gon and his friends. And Hisoka asks Illumi if it was a good idea of revealing the location of his family residence. But Illumi doesn't mind. He says the place is known to the public, but it's also hidden from the public. And he's sure that once Gon and his friends get there, they will realize how different the world they live in is from the world of Illumi's family. Then Hisoka notices Illumi's right wrist, and Illumi confirms that his wrist is broken from what happened to him in the briefing room, Gon getting hold of it and lifting him out of his seat. And Illumi says he understands now why Hisoka is so fascinated by Gon. But at the same time, Illumi, he believes Gon is dangerous. And for a moment, he wonders if he could do something about that. Only for Illumi to turn and he sees Hisoka looking at him, and Hisoka tells him that Gon is his target, and he cautions Illumi politely not to lay a hand on him, and Illumi, he backs away from his thinking, and he says he's well aware of Hisoka's tastes, despite that the two of them they haven't known each other for too long, but he's aware of that. So he asks Hisoka, what's his next move now? And Hisoka, this creepy look on his face, you have to see this. He says he's planning to wait until, quote unquote, the fruit is ripe. Now, this is something I should have spoken about in volume 1 when Hisoka was introduced. If you note his speech bubbles, they come with a playing card suit indicating his mood, his emotion. But the one to make a note of is when there's the heart symbol, because when you see that, it's either he's in a good mood, he's in a jovial, joking mood, he's happy, or someone is moments away from losing their life. So just keep a close eye on the Hisoka speech bubbles. Get a little indication of how he's feeling at the moment. Then we catch up with Gon and his friends. Leorio, he has no idea where Kukuru Mountain is. He asks Kurapika. Kurapika, he also doesn't know, but he thinks they might get some information about it if they were to do some surfing. And then the trio, they are joined by Hanzo, who's about to leave, heading back to his home country of Japan. Despite the roller coaster ride that was the hunt exam, he says he had a great time. So then he encourages Gon and his friends, if they ever visit Japan, they should look him up. Then he distributes some cards that have his name and his rank written on them. He is a Jonin rank ninja of the Kumogakuryu style, the cloud hidden style. Now, when I was reading this, finding out that Hanzo is a Jonin ranked ninja, immediately thought of Naruto. If any of you were fans of Naruto, you'll remember the ranking of ninja. I think it was Genin, was Chunin, then Jonin. So if Hanzo had existed in the universe of Naruto, he would be in the same ranking as Kakashi and company. And I'm trying to imagine Hanzo leading his own squad, trying to imagine who would be part of that squad. I'll look around online to see, is there any fan art, any fan work which has Hanzo existing in the Naruto universe, leading his own squad. It'd be interesting to see that. And then after he leaves, Poko comes along, and the first thing he does is he apologizes to Kurapika for what he said in the briefing room. He admits that Kurapika was right, and the only reason why Poko acted that way was he was just upset at how he passed the exam. It was such an anticlimactic fashion, so he just wanted to vent his frustration on someone. Kurapika, he apologizes to Poko as well. So then Poko, he says he's accepted that he's a hunter now, and what matters is what he does next. He plans to travel the world in search of creatures which have not been documented yet. This occupation would make him what's known as a beast hunter, or a hunter of fantastic creatures. And it's with Poko, I just seeing him again, it just brings back memories of everything that goes on later. But hadn't really appreciated Poco until, while I was offline during my time away, I had the chance to just go back into Hunter x Hunter, reread all the chapters that I've got, and to see Poco again, it just made me appreciate him again, because when I started the series reading the early volumes, then Poco's introduction, I hadn't really appreciated him, but now I do really appreciate him, so it was just good to see him again. And so then he tells Gon that if there's any information that he wants to find out, he can help. So then Gon tells him that he wants to know about Ging, but he doesn't have a photo of Ging. Then Poco, he takes out this pocket-sized computer, and Leorio, Kurapika, he asks them if they have any evidence, anything of Ging that they can give to him. They don't have anything. So after that, he gives them a card which has his home code on it. And then in turn, Leorio and Kurapika, they give Poco cards that have their home codes on them. It's only Gon who's out of the loop. He doesn't know what's going on. There's no idea what a home code is. And the expression on the other's face once they hear him say that he doesn't know what a home code is, it's as if, this should be something that even Gon should know what it is. So then we get the explanation of what a home code is. It grants access to a special kind of answering machine that receives messages for hunters while they are far from home. The messages can be listened to via mobile phones that hunters carry with them. Then Leorio adds that to avoid the messages being intercepted or the machines being hacked, the messages are encrypted by special code words. But it should go without saying that if you're going to share any important information, it's best to do that face to face with someone. But any messages that are sent via these the answering machines, it's best to keep them short. Then Gon asks about surfing, what Kurapika had suggested they do earlier on. And he's told by Leorio and Kurapika that surfing involves consulting the electronic pages of a universal encyclopedia, basically browsing the internet. What's required for this is a personal phone line with a registered number, and then after inputting a code, you then gain access available. That information in the universal encyclopedia, you'll gain access to it from any computer in the world. And then Poco even shows Gon a registration card. And then Leorio says the 3 tools of communication that are vital to a hunter: it's a home code, it's a mobile phone, and access to that universal encyclopedia. Then Kurapika says even a hunter license can be used to access those electronic pages for free. Let that sink in. Any internet cafe you can think of, you can just walk in there with your hunter license, browse the internet, no problem. But Gon says he's not planning to use his hunter license for surfing yet. He's got his reasons, but to Leorio, this is just Gon being difficult. So Kurapika, he says, they'll use his hunter license instead. Then Poco gives Gon his home code and encourages him to contact him once Gon has got his own home code. So after Poco leaves, Gon sees Satotsu down the hall. He hurries over to him and he shows him the card that Kaito dropped all those years ago. Gon wants to know what this is because all this time he assumed it's a hunter license. Although when you take a look at the card, it looks very different from a hunter license. Satotsu has a look at the card and then he's surprised because it's not a hunter license. Instead, it's a certificate of a double star hunter. And then he tells Gon that the certificate belongs to a hunter named Ging. When he turns the card around, he shows Gon the bottom of the card where there's a series of numbers and says this is the certification number. And the last 3 digits of the certification number indicate the edition of the hunter exam after which the card was issued. The hunter exam which just ended is the 287th edition. This certificate was given to Ging after the 267th edition of the hunter exam. And that exam only had 1 applicant passing it. Just imagine, 1 applicant passing that exam. So to Satotsu, Ging remains a mystery, and he says the only information that he has managed to find out about Ging concerns his excavation of the Lurker ruins. So unfortunately, that's the only information he can share with Gon. So Satotsu recommends that Gon should do some surfing of his own and find out more information. But as far as Gon is concerned, he's just pleased that he's got something tangible that belongs to his father, and that puts him one step closer to reaching Ging. So then Satotsu asks Gon if he knows how to contact Kaito, and Gon admits that he doesn't know, but if he were to meet Kaito again, he'll be sure to ask. So then Gon thanks Satotsu, leaves to join Ryoryu and Kurapika. Meanwhile, Satotsu is then joined by Buhara and Menchi, and he says to them he was so eager to help Gon that he almost revealed to him that the hunter exam isn't over just yet. Almost said that to him. So then Gon and his friends, they arrive at an internet cafe and they begin surfing. First off, they search for information about Kukuru Mountain, and they learn that it is located in the Dentora region, which is one of many parts that make up the Republic of Padokia. Padokia is on the northern side of a continent, which is just to the east of where Gon and his friends are currently located. Tourists are welcome to visit Padokia, and the trip there is 3 days by airship. Now if you take a look at the continent where Padokia is, the continent looks like Africa resting on its left side. That's just one of many continents based on the real life. I'll try and find a picture of the world map of Hunter x Hunter so you can have a look at this. So then the trio, upon learning about where Kukuru Mountain is, they decide to make reservations right away. They plan to leave today. So after finding that information, Gon asks Kurapika to search the Hunters page for information about Ging. So they find out that there are several people named Ging who are listed. So then Gon tells him, search for Ging Freecss. And when Kurapika tries, to search for Ging Freecss, access is denied. It turns out information about Ging Freecss is kept inside a top secret database. And to access that database, you would have to have the authorization level of a president, a country's president. And also you'd need to have a massive fortune. So to Leorio, whoever this Ging Freecss person is a very big deal. And on that note, that is how we reach the end of the Hunter exam, the first story arc of Hunter x Hunter, and we get into the next story arc, the quote-unquote unofficial story arc of the Zoldyck family. So let's get into chapter 39, Intruder. So we see Gon and his friends, they board the airship, make it to the Dentora region, then they hop on a train heading to a town in the Republic of Padokia. On the way there, they see Kukuru Mountain in the distance. Kukuru Mountain stands at a height of 3,722 meters, or 12,211 feet. And Leorio, seeing this mountain in the distance, he's uneasy now, fully aware that there's a family of assassins that lives somewhere on that mountain. Kurapika, he recommends that they should ask around once they've settled in, they've found a hotel, and they've made their plans. But as for Gon, he's not worried, he's not fretting, he's all super excited because for him, this is just a trip to see a friend of theirs. So he's super hyped about this. Once they make it into town, they speak with a street vendor who tells the trio that to reach the mountain, they should catch one of the daily tour buses that goes around the mountain. And when the vendor finds out that they're actually headed directly for the Zoldyck's residence, she just laughs at them. Just hearing that this group of youngsters, they're heading towards the residence of this family of assassins. And then eventually they get on one of these buses, which belongs to Lamentation Tours. And we see the tour guide, this really good-looking young woman. She welcomes the passengers on board as they begin the trip to see the Zoldyck family. Kurapika and Leorio on the bus, they notice that not all the passengers are tourists. There's these two shady-looking men among the passengers who are on the bus as well. They made a note of these two guys. So, as they're making the trip to Kukuru Mountain, the tour guide explains that Kukuru Mountain is actually a volcano which is surrounded by a thick forest. And that's the location of the mansion of the Zoldyck family. The family consists of 5 siblings, their parents, grandparents, and a great-grandfather. Soon enough, the bus arrives outside the property, which is closed off by a very high stone wall and a front gate that is made up of doors. The front gate, if you're watching the video version, you'll see what the front gate looks like. It's just divided into a series of doors that are of varying sizes. And the tour guide says this is known as the door to Hades, because anyone who ventures onto the property never makes it back alive. And then just off to the side of the front gate is a side entrance and a security guard booth. And the tour guide says, well, unfortunately, the tour ends at the front gate. Because beyond that, it's the property of the Zoldicks. And Leorio, he can't believe this because even from the front gates, he can see that the mountain is still way off in the distance. So he's shocked that this beyond the gates with the forest, that's all property of the Zoldyck family. And then gone, he just has to ask the tour guide, how can they enter the property? Only for the tour guide to tell him they cannot enter the property because they don't have permission. But those two guys that Leorio and Krapika had noticed on the bus, they step forward now, and one of them, he says, this is just a bluff, that they're unable to enter the property. And he says that the Zoldicks, they deliberately hide themselves just to be mysterious. So the idea that they can't just enter the property, it's all just a bluff. The other guy, he says there's a 100 million reward for anyone who can take a photo of the faces of the Zoldicks. So what we've got here now are a pair of bounty hunters. They're not tourists at all. So they approach the security guard booth, they pull the guard out, and they demand that he open the front gate. And the guard is warning the bounty hunters that he would get into serious trouble if he were to let them in. But the two men, they don't listen to the warning. They steal a key from the security guard. They throw him off to the side, and then they proceed to the side entrance. They go through. He goes over to check on the guard, and the guard, he's okay, he's unharmed. But he makes a comment that those two bounty hunters, they're about to meet Mike. Who or what is Mike? They're about to meet Mike. And a moment later, that side entrance opens, and this large, hairy, clawed arm appears from the doors, in between the side entrance doors, and drops the skeletal remains of those two bounty hunters who had just walked in. Unbelievable. And seeing this is enough for the tourists. They're just terrified now, and many of them are now scrambling back into the bus. Gon, however, he calmly tells the tour guide that he and his friends, they are staying behind, despite seeing the arm that just appeared. So you can imagine the tour guide, the other tourists, even the security guard, they're shocked to hear Gon saying that they're going to stay. So everyone leaves, and then we fast forward to the evening, where we see Gon and his friends. They are with the security guard in the booth, and this is where the guard learns who they are, and is amazed that they claim to be Killua's friends. And this is because, having worked as a guard for 20 years, this is the first time he is meeting visitors who claim to be friends of one of the Zoldicks. Usually, the visitors who show up are just like the bounty hunters earlier. So this is very unusual for him. But anyway, he thanks the trio for coming, but the front gate is as far as they can go. And this is because, and then he goes on to reveal that the arm that they saw earlier dumping the skeletal remains, that arm belongs to Mike, who is the family guard dog. That's Mike. So the guard says Mike only obeys the Zoldyck family, and for 10 years he has followed one simple order: kill all intruders. And this is why the guard can't let these visitors who claim to be Killua's friends, he can't let them in because they would be killed by Mike. So then Kurapika asks the god how has he been able to deal with Mike, since the god has a key and would have to enter the property eventually. So the god reveals that he doesn't use the key, doesn't go in through the side entrance, because that's for intruders. Many people have shown up, they've tried to go through the front gate, they failed, and they've attempted to destroy the front gate. So this is why the side entrance was installed. And the key would be with the guard, so that the intruders would steal the key, go through the side entrance, thinking it's a real entrance, and then they are dealt with by Mike. So basically the guard's real job actually is just a janitor, glorified janitor, who cleans up after Mike. There is no key required for the front gate. And so after this, Leorio, he steps out of the booth, tries his hand to open the front gate, but no matter how hard he pushes, the doors won't budge. And the guard tells Leorio it's because he's weak. And then the guard removes his shirt to reveal that, like, upon first appearance, the guard just looked like this chubby old man. But the moment he removes his shirt, he's not chubby. He's a well-built old man, with his jagged up arms. And he says to Gon and his friends that the true name of the front gate is the testing gate. And if anyone fails to open it, it's just proof that they are not worthy to enter through the testing gate. So then the guard, he channels some energy from within himself, and then he proceeds to muscle open the front gate. Manages to open them, only for a moment later the doors to automatically shut. And this is when the guard says that once you open the front gate, you have to hurry inside before the doors close again. And then he reveals that Mike was given a second order not to attack anyone who enters through the testing gate. The first set of doors for the testing gate, they weigh 2 tons each, and the weight doubles as you move up to the other sets, and there are 7 sets in total. So according to the guard, when Killua returned, he succeeded in opening 3 of those doors. And having listened to all this, and gone realizing that there's no other way for him to enter the property and to see Killua, Gon is not happy about this. So then he asks the guard for the key to the side entrance, and he says if going through that side entrance is the easiest way for him and his friends to meet Killua, then he might as well go in as an intruder. There's no problem becoming an intruder. So this is Gon now, willing to risk his own life just to meet his friend. So let's get into chapter 40, the Zoldyck family, part 1. So again, he's asked for the side entrance key. If the guard refuses, Gon, he plans to climb over the wall instead. He doesn't like this setup of being tested when all he wants to do is see Killua. And Leorio, he tries to remind Gon about, we just saw Mike's large armor earlier. You want to get yourself killed? But again, Gon, being stubborn, he won't change his mind. the guard, he sees Gon's point, but still doesn't think it's wise for him to use the side entrance or climb over the wall, because Gon would surely be killed by Mickey. So then the guard goes back into the booth. He uses the telephone, which is in there, and this is where we find out the name of the guard. His name is Zebro, or Zebro. I have to say, when his name is revealed, in my head I immediately thought of Zebra, the character from Toriko. If anyone has read or watched Toriko, you'll remember Zebra. So on the phone, Zebro, he speaks to someone and he explains that there are visitors at the front gate who are claiming to be Killua's friends. And then next thing you know, Zebro he's now apologizing to the person he's speaking to, and then the call ends. And he says to the trio that he was speaking to one of the butlers, because any calls that are made for the Zoldicks, they go through the butlers first. And unfortunately, no luck, they won't let Gon and his friends through. So then Gon takes the phone, dials, he speaks to the butler who was speaking to Zebro a moment ago. He introduces himself and he says he's Killua's friend, only to be told by the butler that Killua has no friends. And the butler hangs up on Gon. Gon dials again, speaks to the butler, and he demands for Killua to be put on the line. And then the butler calmly asks Gon, how can he prove that he is who he says he is? And Gon says if the butler were to put Killua on the line, he'll vouch for him. And then Gon immediately hears his voice on the line saying what he just said about, or if the butler were to put Killua on the line, he can vouch for him. And then the butler says, this is proof that voices can be imitated. And then he says, even if he had a photo of Gon, that still wouldn't prove that Gon is who he says he is. It's not enough. Because there's also a possibility that Killua's enemies could be using Gon to reach Killua. So the butler continues to refuse to let Gon anywhere near Killua. And the call ends. So then after that, Gon leaves the booth, takes out his fishing rod, then swings the line all the way to the top of the wall, and he's preparing to climb over the wall and enter the property alone, despite Leorio and Kurapika's protests. Then Zebro speaks up and he says he'll give Gon the key and will go through the side entrance together with him, because maybe there's a chance that Mike will recognize Zebro and won't kill him and Gon. Gon says he doesn't want Zebro to put himself in danger like that. But Zebro says if anything were to happen to Gon, there's no way for him to, face Killua. So he would rather go in with Gon, and if they were to be killed, they'll at least be killed together. So Gon, he reels back his fishing line and he apologizes to Zebro for not considering his position in all this. But to Zebro, he sees that Gon truly cares about his friends, even getting emotional easily, but willing to set aside his anger to settle things with someone who has, upset him. Then Zebro also notes that Gon and his friends, they are confident in their own strength, and that's enough for them to tackle any obstacle in front of them. So this makes Zebro wonder if they might not be afraid of Mike upon seeing him. Then Zebro guesses that Gon is fond of animals and that he grew up around them. So with that, he proceeds to open the front gate for Gon and his friends to enter. And he says, okay, maybe a good idea for Gon to see Mike. So the four of them, they proceed through the front gate. They're in the forest, the quote-unquote front yard of the property. And Zebro, he calls out to Mike. And from the bushes walks out this large, wolf-like canine creature, shaggy looking, lanky, and it towers over Gon with these very unnerving eyes. If you're watching the video version, you are seeing a picture of Mike right now. And if you listen to the audio version, please check the show notes so that you can have a look at Mike. And Gon, once you turn the page to see Gon's reaction upon seeing Mike, he's sweating upon seeing Mike. And then a moment later, Mike just settles down casually, no problem. Zebro says, unlike any animal that Gon has seen back home, Mike is unlike any of those animals. And he noticed that Gon might have thought he could try and communicate with Mike, but failed because he saw Mike's eyes. And Zebro says Mike is a trained guard dog, but he behaves more like a machine, memorizing the look and smell of people that he's seeing for the first time, and only responding to commands, even if one of those commands says he should kill Zebro. So then he asks Gon if he thinks he can try and take on Mike, but Gon is honest enough to admit that Mike really scares him, so he's not even going to try and take him on. So then after that, we see Zebro. He leads the trio to a house which serves as the servants' quarters, and there they meet another employee who welcomes them, saying that Zebro doesn't always chum up to anyone, so if they are cool with Zebro, they must be cool people. So then Zebro, he points to the main entrance, and he asks the trio to open them. Gon, he places his hand on the door, but he immediately notices that the doors are very sturdy, and Zebro informs him that each door weighs 200 kgs. That's 440 pounds each door. And he says it's important to stay in shape around here. So then Leorio, he tries and he manages to open the doors with some effort. And once they're inside the house, Zebro offers them some slippers to wear, each slipper weighing 20 kgs or 44 pounds. And then from there, he offers them some cups of fresh tea, each cup weighing 20 kgs, 44 pounds, minus the tea. I'm trying to imagine how much those cups weigh once the tea has been added. And this made me smile because I'm thinking back to when we're watching the 2011 anime with one of my friends. This part where they are handed these 20 kg cups of tea, and we're laughing, saying, okay, how much would the cups weigh when you've got the tea, when you've added in milk, when you've added in sugar? How much would those cups weigh now? So yeah, this was a cool thing to see again after all this time. So once the group is settled in, they are around by a dining table. They're sitting on chairs that weigh 60 kgs, 132 pounds. And Zebro, he learns from them that they came to Padokia using tourist visas. And this means that Gon and his friends can only stay in Padokia for a month. But while they're here though, he asks them if wouldn't they be interested in getting some training done. Zebra is willing to take them up the mountain right away, but he thinks that training would be more worthwhile for the trio. And by the time that they are done with this training, they would be strong enough to open at least the first doors of the testing gate. And so Gon and his friends, they accept the offer to do some training, and then Zebro gives them each a special vest which weighs 50 kgs or 110 pounds, which they must wear at all times except while sleeping. And Zebro says he'll increase the weights of these vests as time goes on. So from 50 kgs, from 50 kgs with more weight to be added later. And then we have a little time skip. We move on to 2 weeks later, and we see Leorio opening the first doors of the testing gate, with Gon and Kurapika and Zebro watching by the side. Gon is cheering him on. His left arm is all healed up now, much to Kurapika's surprise, because he notes that the arm healed in just 10 days. And Gon, as he's cheering for Leorio, is jumping up and down, still wearing one of those vests. At this point, this vest is weighing 150 kilograms or 220 pounds, and yet Gon is just jumping up and down wearing this vest. And to Zebro, he's amazed by the trio, and he's convinced that perhaps they might be able to reach the Zoldyck's residence after all. Let's get into chapter 41, The Zoldyck Family, part 2. So the training is all completed now. Gon and his friends, they're leaving the servants' quarters. They thank Zebro and the other employee, who is revealed to be named Sequant. They thank them for helping them. And Zebro points to a road that he says that they should follow to the mountain. Somewhere along this road, the Zoldyck residence will be found. And he apologizes because even though he's been employed by the Zoldicks for 20 years, he has not been to the residence before. So he just apologizes for not being able to help them anymore. But so then, as the trio are leaving, Zebro tells Squant that they succeeded in opening the testing gate in just 20 days, with Leorio opening the first two sets of doors. So then he wonders if maybe they can reach the Zoldyck's residence after all. But Sequant isn't as optimistic, and he reminds Zebro about an incident which happened 3 years ago, which involved a blacklist hunter who arrived with 100 thugs, and except for that blacklist hunter, all those other thugs were killed by an employee of the Zoldicks, a 10-year-old girl who was a butler in training. And seeing this, the blacklist hunter was so amazed by this that he immediately requested to be hired by the Zoldicks. And judging by this exchange, it looks as if Sequant was that blacklist hunter. And seeing all those thugs being killed, it was enough for him to realize just how outmatched he is. And Sequant realized that he's not on the same level as the Zoldicks or their employees. Not at all. So then we catch up with Gon and his friends. They reach the entrance to a small wall, and there they find someone standing. It's the girl that Zebra and Sequant were talking about. She's dressed like a butler, with hair that is gathered in bunches that are tied at the ends of the string. And she just has this, just this calm look on her face, like she isn't concerned about anything. But when she sees Gon and his friends, she just tells them to leave because they are on private property. Gon tells her that they called from the front gate, and they even went through the testing gate. But the girl says they still needed permission for entry from the butlers, only for Gon to point out that they did not get permission, even after explaining that they are here as friends of Killua. So how are they supposed to get permission then? And the girl, she says, it doesn't matter because there hasn't been any requirement for permission before. So to Gon, the conclusion is, the only other option was for them to trespass because they couldn't get permission anyway. So then the girl points to a line that's on the ground across where she's standing. And she says if Gon and his friends cross this line, she will have to remove them by force. And Gon, he's the one who steps forward alone. And the moment one of his feet is over that line, the girl strikes him with this green cane that she's carrying, just wallops him with this thing and sends Gon flying backwards. Kurapika and Doryo, they drew out their weapons, but Gon stops them, tells them not to interfere. This is his fight. Then he tells the girl that they don't want to fight her. They are just here to see Killua. But the girl says she has her orders and she's not going to change her mind. So then Gon puts his things down, the fishing rod, his satchel, puts them down. He approaches the girl again and is hit a second time. And this keeps going on right into the evening. With someone is in the bushes nearby. They are watching as this is going on. At this point, Gon's face is all bloody and bruised. If you're watching the video version, you'll have a close-up of Gon's face. His left eye is swollen shut. And yet he continues to approach the girl, and she continues to hit him again and again and again, to the point where she urges him to stop. She's no longer looking unconcerned. She's visibly disturbed by what's happening now. But Gon, he's not going to stop. And she tries to tell him to just accept that he cannot go through. She even addresses Kurapika and Leorio, telling him, this is your friend, why don't you stop him? But neither Kurapika and Leorio, they are not moving, they don't do anything. And the girl is baffled by this. And Gon gets back up and he asks why they have to go through all this just to see Killua. And out of frustration, he rushes forward to punch one of the two pillars that are on either side of the girl. And upon doing this, one of his feet has gone over the line, and he notes that the girl didn't hit him. And the girl hesitates now, looking at Gon. And he says she's different from Mike. And no matter how hard she tries to hide her emotions, Gon can see that she still has a heart, she still has a soul. Which is why he noticed the girl show a hint of concern when he mentioned Kilua's name. And this is where the girl pauses, and now with tears streaming down her face, she pleads with Gon to save Kilua. And right then, the girl is hit in the side of the head by something, and she immediately collapses. And someone steps out of from among the trees, expressing displeasure that an employee would go beyond their station like this. And this person is this tall woman who is wearing a yellow and pink bustle gown. She's also wearing a broad-brimmed yellow hat with a ring of pink flowers around the top, and her face is wrapped in bandages, and over her eyes is an electronic visor with a single green eye dot. And accompanying this woman is a child with black shoulder-length hair, and is wearing a type of red kimono, which is known as a Furikusu. If there are any of you who have played the Pokemon games, you should be aware there is a class of trainers that is represented by these young women who are wearing a Furikusu. And along with the Furikusu, this child is wearing a pair of Japanese sandals that are known as Zori. I'll put links in the show notes so you can read more about the Furikusu and the Zori. So the woman sees Gon, and she says she knows about him because Illumi told her about Gon. Then she tells him that Kilua has been aware that Gon is on the property and is known for over 3 weeks now. And he gave the woman a message which she passes on to Gon, saying, "Thank you for coming to see me, but I can't see you right now. Sorry." And as the woman is relaying this message to Gon, we are shown Kilua, who is bruised and bloody all over, and is suspended just off the ground by chains linked to handcuffs over his wrists, and his feet are also cuffed together. This is Kilua. What exactly happened to Kilua for him to be in this state? But that's how we end chapter 41. We get into chapter 42, the Zoldyck family, part 3. And the chapter page, the title page for the chapter, shows a brief scene from Kilua's childhood, where he's sitting in a tree talking to the girl butler, who is introduced as Canary or Canaria. They're meeting for the first time. The Kilua, he notices, she works here, and he's just trying to have a casual conversation with the girl, even offering her something to eat, but Canary politely declines the offer because she is Kilua's employee, and she continues to address him as Master Kilua, even when he asks her to be his friend. Again, she has to decline, trying to maintain the employee-employed division between them. Then we come back to the present, picking up from where the previous chapter ended. We see Kilua again. He's in some room somewhere in the Zoldyck residence, which looks like a torture room. And with him in this room is this fat man who is smoking a cigar and is holding a whip. Kilua, despite his condition, he's asleep actually, and this man is annoyed by this, and he whips Kilua awake. And Killua, he wakes up, sees the man, and he greets him. This man is his brother, Miluki. And Miluki takes the cigar, he puts it out on Killua's chest, only for Killua. He just tells him, oh, he's not, like in serious pain, but he apologizes to Miluki, telling him, oh, he's sorry. But this just continues to annoy Miluki because he thinks Killua is making fun of him, and he whips him again. And then before Miluki can, hit him again, a cell phone in his front pocket of his shirt starts ringing. It's a call from their mother telling him that Gon, Kurapika, and Ryoyo have reached the butler's quarters. And Miluki is pleased to hear this because he wonders what would happen if he were to tell their mother to give the butlers the order to kill Gon and his friends. And Killua, who has been, just joking around with Miluki, he just suddenly has this look on his face, telling Miluki not to harm his friends or else. And as he says this, he, breaks one of the chains, just frees his left arm from that chain. And then someone enters the room. It's their grandfather, Zeno. And he tells Miluki that, he's done enough. Killua can leave. And Zeno, he's this gray-haired old man. If you have a look at Zeno, the hairstyle that he's got, his hair is all standing up on his head, almost like he's a Super Saiyan. He's sporting this Fu Manchu mustache, and the outfit he's wearing has got this sign on the front which says "A Killer Day." I just thought that it's a nice sign given the profession that this family is known for. So then Miluki is there protesting that Killua hasn't shown any remorse, but Zeno is well aware of this anyway. So then Killua, he easily frees himself from the remaining restraints, and he says to Miluki that he's genuinely sorry, and that's why he just let him punish him without complaining. So then Zeno informs Killua that his father Silver wants to see him. Then Killua, he leaves the room, and Miluki is there. He's upset. He throws down the whip, and he says Killua is just acting up because Zeno, their grandfather, he just lets him off the hook. And Zeno says Killua is special, and he asks Miluki to give his opinion on Killua's abilities. And even Miluki can admit that Killua is the most gifted member of the Zoldyck family thus far. But as an assassin, Killua fails, with the one reason being that he wants to, become friends with someone. And then Zeno says Miluki has made some valid points, though. And then Miluki shifts over to talking about himself, saying that he's willing to take on anyone for the right price, and goes on to talk about this invention that he's been working on, this special bomb, small enough to be harnessed onto a mosquito, and says that the bomb will explode once the mosquito is sucking blood. But Miluki is not happy about the power of the bomb's explosion, saying that it's on the scale of a firecracker, firecracker, I should say, or a cherry bomb. And because mosquitoes don't work very well when it comes to precise targeting, But as Zeno is listening to this, he comments by saying, on one hand, Miluk is gifted, but on the other hand, he's a bit of an idiot, for when compared to Killua. And then on the next page, this is where we see Killua's father for the first time, Silver Zoldyck. The long white hair with eyes that, cat-like eyes, and is dressed in an outfit which makes him look like a ninja, and he's seated on several cushions on this big sofa, and there's a large grey canine, just sitting next to the sofa, and Killua is there, seated on a chair in front of Silver, and he says to Killua, he heard that Killua has made some friends. Killua confirms this, says, they're cool friends. When Silver asks, hey, what are your friends like? And then Killua is asked about the hunter exam, and he says, it was easy. And after that, there's a brief moment of silence between, father and son. And Silver says, hey, Killua can sit on the sofa next to him and tell him everything that he's experienced so far, from the exam all the way to now, because Silver is actually interested to hear what Killua went through. And then we come back outside to where Gon and his friends are with this woman and the child that have just arrived. And the woman introduces herself as Killua's mother, and the child next to her is named Kaluto. Now, in the manga and in the anime, both versions of the anime, Killua's mother is not named by any of the characters, but she's got a name, and that name is Kikyo, Kikyo. Or if you've got one of the data books, the spelling is very different. It's actually triple K. So this is Kikyo Zoldyck. And then Kurapika and Leorio, they are checking on Canary. Fortunately, she's not dead. She's just fainted. And then Gon asks Mrs. Zoldyck why they can't see Killua, and she tells them that Killua is in an isolation room. Although he ran away from home after attacking her and Miluki, she says Killua came back and wanted to make up for what he did, so he chose to put himself in isolation, and nobody knows for how long. Then the dot of her visor suddenly turns from green to yellow, and Mrs. Zoldyck is suddenly receiving some communication from her father-in-law that upsets her. It's about Killua being released, and she's arguing about this, but it has already happened, so now she has to return to the house, and Gon tells her to let Killua know that they'll be in the area for 10 days. And Killua's mother agrees, and she agrees to pass on the message, and then she makes her exit. And Kaluto remains behind for a moment, just to stare at Gon and his friends. And if you're watching the video version, you're seeing the page now, the look on Kaluto's face. If looks could kill, that's a face that could kill. And then Mrs. Zoldyck calls for Kaluto, and Kaluto leaves. Now, before anyone, gets confused, Kaluto, despite the look and the outfit, Kaluto is a boy, not a girl. And I can imagine there were many fans who, upon seeing Kaluto for the first time, they assumed that, oh, it's a girl. No, Kaluto's a boy. So then Leorio, he makes this comment saying he finds Mrs. Zoldyck to be suspicious and he doesn't trust what she said about Killua putting himself in isolation. And he suggests that they should follow after her. Gon would like to do that, but he says that might put Canary in more trouble. So they decide not to follow after Mrs. Zoldyck and Kaluto. So Canary, she sits up and she says she'll take Gon and his friends to the butler's quarters. There's a direct line, phone line there to the Zoldyck's house, and says if Zeno were to answer the call, that might help Gon and his friends. And then we see Mrs. Zoldyck and Kaluto, they are rushing back to the house, and she's angry at her father-in-law for not consulting her first. And now Killua is with Silver, and this is something that she doesn't like because it's something that she doesn't like because Killua might be influenced by Silver. And then we come back to Killua and Silver's conversation, and Killua is in the middle of telling Silver about Gon's match with Hanzo. And Hanzo, the part where Gon had told Hanzo that he doesn't want his leg being broken, but at the same time he doesn't want to lose. And Silver is highly amused by this story. And then he asks Killua if he wants to see his friends again. And Killua, who has been happy telling his father the story, he suddenly goes quiet. And Silver encourages him to just speak freely and be honest. And he admits that their relationship as father and son is not normal, and they haven't spent time together like this, having a regular chat, because Silver was raised to be an assassin, and that's how he raised Killua. But at the same time, Silver realizes that although Killua is his son, he is also his own person and should follow his own path. He can come back home anytime, if he ever gets bored of following his own path. So he asks Killua again if he wants to see his friends. And Killua says he does. And so Silver gives him his permission to do so. Then Silver bites his right thumb to draw some blood, and he says Killua should make him a promise to never betray his friends. Killua bites his own right thumb and he presses it against Silver's thumb to make the promise. Then Mrs. Zoldyck and Kaluto, they arrive, and Mrs. Zoldyck, she orders Killua to go back to the isolation room because his friends, they're gone now. But Killua, he simply tells her that he's leaving. He's all dressed up now, he's in new shirts and trousers, and he's also got a satchel as well. But Mrs. Zoldyck instead does the same thing that Illumi did a couple of chapters ago, where she just reaches her arm forward to Killua, only for Killua to give her this cold look and tells her to back off, and then walks away. And Mrs. Zoldyck, she says nothing, but at the same time she's pleased by the look that he just gave her. And then she goes on to speak to Silver, demanding to know why he and Zeno allowed for Killua to leave after the effort Illumi made to bring him back home. And Silver simply says that Killua needs to go out on his own. And Mrs. Zoldyck disagrees with this because this is a crucial time for Killua's development. And this is the point where the family will find out if he can be the head of the family or not. But Silver says that's why Killua has to go. And he's certain that Killua will return at some point because, after all, he is still Silver's son. That's chapter 43. Killua is left home again. Let's get into chapter 43, the Zoldyck family, part 4. Nighttime now. Canary and Gon and his friends, they arrive just outside the butler's quarters. Standing outside the house, there are 5 male butlers. They bow and they welcome the trio. And inside, we see them seated in a waiting room, and the butler who spoke to Gon over the phone apologizes to them for that, and informs them that Madam, Mrs. Zoldyck said Gon and his friends are to be treated as special guests. So Leorio is grateful for the hospitality, but he says that they are here to see Killua. So he asks if the butlers could take the trio to the main house. The butler says that won't be necessary because Killua is on his way to the butler's quarters. That's good news to Gon. But while they wait, the butler proposes that they could play a little game with him. And he takes out a small gold coin, flips it, catches it in one of his hands, and asks the trio to guess which hand holds the coin. And they all point to the left hand as the correct answer. And the butler goes a second time, a little faster this time, and the trio correctly guesses the left hand again. The other butlers are impressed and they applaud. For the third round, as soon as the coin is flipped, the butler's his hands are suddenly in motion now. It doesn't do justice to try and describe. You'd have to see the page. But his hands are just moving in rapid fashion. Even Leorio is amazed by this. And when it's time to guess which hand has the coin, he is not too certain now. He chooses the right hand. And as he does that, the butler then mentions that he witnessed Killua's birth. And because of that, he's very protective of Killua. Sees him as his own child. Which is why the butler is not pleased about Gon and his friends trying to take Killua away. And all of a sudden, his butler, his demeanor has changed. He's no longer cool and welcoming. He's now cold. He's now upset. And he demands for them to guess which hand has the coin. Kurapika responds, he picks the left hand. It's correct. But when the butler opens his left hand to reveal the coin has been bent out of shape. Such incredible force. And he continues to speak, saying he heard from Killua's mother. She sounded very heartbroken about her son leaving, and this is something that the butler will not accept. And then the other butlers, they pull out knives. One of them holds a knife to Canary's throat, and the butler, the main butler, he holds out another gold coin and says that until Killua arrives, he is going to test Gon and his friends. They'll play by his rules now, and if they make one mistake, Canary is dead. If they're all dead before Killua arrives, the butler says he'll simply tell him that the trio left permanently. Now Gon, tries to speak, but he's silenced by the butler, who tells him that the only reason that Gon and his friends are still alive is because they've been allowed to stay alive. So they cannot trying to argue with him at this point. So he asks them to guess which hand has the new coin. Gon and his friends, they hesitate. Even Gon is not sure now. but the butler pushes them to answer, giving them only 3 seconds, or else Canary will be killed. So Leorio answers, chooses the left hand. Gon and Kurapika choose the right hand. The coin is in the butler's right hand, and that means Leorio has been eliminated from the game now. The 5th round plays out. Now Gon, he can't follow the butler's swift movements at this point too. He can't follow them very well. And when it's time to guess, he lets Kurapika go first. Kurapika chooses the right hand, Gon chooses the left hand. Gon answers the correct one, he stays in the game. Just as the 6th round is starting, Gon tells the butler, stop. Then he asks Leorio for his switchblade. The butler warns Gon not to stop for time because he can simply kill one of them. But Gon instead, he removes the bandage over his swollen left eye. He makes a cut across the eyelid to release some blood to reduce the swelling. This allows him to open his eye. And so with both of his eyes open now, Gon is ready for the game to continue. And he goes on to correctly guess that the coin is in the butler's left hand. So for the 7th round, the butler stands up, and this time the coin is being passed between him and 2 other butlers. And then when it's time to guess, Gon has a little smile on his face, and he points to the butler who is standing behind the couch where he, Leorio, and Kurapika are seated. That is the correct guess. And the butlers, they all applaud the trio for winning the game. And now the main butler is back to being, all happy and pleased. And he apologizes to Gon and his friends for putting them through that game. It was just harmless fun anyway. And because of the game, they passed the time, because a moment later, Killua enters the room. He's happy to see his friends. He's even making fun of Gon's bruised face, and Gon, he makes fun of Killua's own bruised face. And then Killua addresses the butler, who is named Goto, and instructs Goto to disobey any orders he may receive from Mrs. Zoldyck, which involve him, tailing Killua. Goto understands, and he wishes Killua a safe trip. As the group is leaving, Gon, he stops, and he asks Goto if he'll miss Killua. Goto says he's just an employee. His duty is only to look after his employers, with no emotional attachment. But of course, Gon doesn't buy this. And then Goto challenges him to one more round of the game. Gon guesses the left hand, only to be shown that the coin is in Goto's right hand. And Gon was certain that it was in his left hand. But Goto says to him to be careful while out in the world, because not everything is as it seems. Deception is everywhere. And then Goto bows, and he just requests that Gon look after Master Killua. And there's an extra page that comes with this chapter. It's an announcement from Togashi about getting married to Naoko Takeuchi. For those of you who might not know, should know, Naoko Takeuchi is the creator of Sailor Moon. And on this page we see little illustrations of the little process that happened from the proposal to preparing for the wedding, and then going off on their honeymoon. And then at the bottom we see the little avatars for Togashi and his wife. They are there at a desk working together and is there wishing, thanking the readers for wishing them well through the letters that they were sending. And he just encourages them to keep sending more letters. And this is where we end the Zoldyck family arc, and we get into the start of the Heaven's Arena arc and the final chapter of this volume. Chapter 44, the Heaven's Arena. So the four friends, they have left Kukuru Mountain. They are back on the streets of town. Kurapika, he demonstrates the coin trick for Gon, because he thinks he's figured out how Goto was playing the game. And he demonstrates by taking out a gold coin, hides it, and asks Gon to guess which hand has the coin. Gon chooses the left hand, but Kurapika shows the coin is in his right hand, and then reveals that Goto had two coins instead of one, with the trick being that he would hide one coin, he would hide the right hand coin while making it look like the second coin has been caught by the left hand. When it's time for someone to guess which hand has the coin, Goto would hold up both hands just above the person's eye level. Meanwhile, he's slipped the coin in the left hand into the sleeve of his shirt, and then the right hand is what he would show the person. Gon gets it now, and Killua says Goto, he likes playing tricks, but he's not fond of cheating. So it was just a trick, no cheating involved. And then he asks Gon why he's so stubborn. I highly recommend you have a look at the page where Killua was asking Gon this question. He's just got this exaggerated look on his face because he also understands that Gon can be stubborn. And he says there was no need for him to use a tourist visa to get into Padokia. He could have used his hunter license to grant him, it would have granted him easy passage into Padokia. And Gon says he's aware of this, but again, he has his reasons why he doesn't want to use his hunter license yet. Because first, there are some people that he wants to meet and thank for helping him. He wants to meet Kaito again and return the card that he dropped. Then Gon takes out the number badge that Hisoka was wearing during the exam, and he says he wants to return it to Hisoka and punch him in the face for what he did to him. So then Killua asks Gon, does he know where Hisoka is at the moment? And Gon does not know. So then Kurapika, on the other hand, he knows where Hisoka is. And this is because Hisoka told him after the briefing. And Leorio asks Kurapika if what Hisoka whispered to him during their match is connected to that information Hisoka shared with him afterwards. Kurapika confirms it and says that what Hisoka said to him concerns the Phantom Troop. Kurapika doesn't know how Hisoka would be aware of Spider unless he overheard the conversation that he had with Leorio. But because the spider is the symbol of the group, and only people familiar with the Phantom Troop would call them Spider, Kurapika believes that Hisoka might be linked to them in some way. And when he confronted Hisoka after the briefing to tell him more, Hisoka just said he would wait for Kurapika on the 1st of September in a place called Yokshin or York-New City. And Gon notes that 1st of September, that's over six months away from now. And Killua wants to know what's so special about the auction city. And Leorio tells him that the location of a major auction, that's the location of a major auction, the biggest auction in the world. Kurapika backs this by saying that it will take place from the 1st to the 10th of September and will attract many of the world's wealthiest people because of all the rare objects and treasures which will be auctioned at this event. But this all means that there will be plenty of fakes and counterfeit items available too. And Kurapika thinks that there's a possibility that the Phantom Troop could be in the auction during the auction. Or at least there could be people who might know about the group who will be there. But one thing is certain, Hisoka will be in the auction. And Kurapika tells Gon that if he sees Hisoka, he'll contact Gon. And with that said, it's time for Kurapika to go on his own way, saying that meeting Killua was something he wanted to do before getting started on putting his hunter license to good use. He says you'll need to make enough money in order to attend the auction. Leorio is also leaving to begin his studies. And says thanks to the hunter license, if he passes the entrance exam to a medical university, he won't have to worry about tuition fees. So the friends, they agree to meet again in Auction City on the 1st of September. So then Gon and Killua, they see Kurapika and Leorio off before they board an airship. And now Gon asks Killua what the two of them should do next. For Killua, it's obvious. And he tells him that at his current level, there's no way for Gon to land a single hit on Hisoka. Not even if he trained for 10 years, let alone 6 months. And to demonstrate this, we see Killua, he doodles Hisoka's face on the ground, and then he doodles Hanzo's face next to it. And then there's a line between the two faces. And he says this represents the difference in power between them. And then Killua proceeds to draw a long line from the Hisoka's face to where he draws Gon's face, and he says this is the difference between Gon and Hisoka right now. And Gon proceeds to ask, okay, what's the difference between Killua and Hisoka? And Killua, he makes the drawing on the ground, although we don't see it. But Gon can see that the difference between between Killua and Hisoka, Hanzo is still stronger than Killua. But Killua tells Gon that it's important for him not to rely on these rough estimations, because people can get stronger with experience, and there are skilled people who are strong enough to hide their true strengths. But the bottom line is Hisoka is strong, and Gon will not be in any position to land a hit on him as he is even 6 months later. So then Killua asks Gon if he has any money. Gon says he's got some money left. Killua also has some money left, but he knows a place where they can earn more money and gain fighting experience. This place is the Heaven's Arena, or Tenku Togijo. So the boys, they board an airship, they travel out of the Dentura region, going southeast to another city. And there they find the Heaven's Arena, this towering structure with 251 floors and standing at a height of 991 meters, or 3,250 feet, and makes it the 4th tallest building in the world. and we see Gon being shown a map on a computer indicating their current location, and then the location of Yorkshire City, which is on another continent to the south. The money which the boys had left is what they used to cover their travel expenses. So now it's time for them to earn more. They exit the airship, they make their way to the Heavens Arena, where they find a long queue of people outside, all of them eager to compete. And Killua says there's no special requirements in the Heavens Arena, unlike the Hunter exam. All you have to do is knock out your opponent, win, and you move up. The higher you go, the bigger your prize money and the stronger your opponents become. Once they make it to the entrance, the boys are given forms to fill, and Killua suggests that they write that they've got 10 years of experience in order to get higher rankings. And then afterwards, they are allowed to go through and they enter the first floor. This large indoor arena with stands that are surrounding 16 squared fighting rings, and each ring is designated with an alphabet letter from A to P. So there are several matches that are going on, and Gon is seeing this for the first time. He's amazed seeing all the action. This, crowds are all lively, and Killua says it's been a while since he was last here, much to the surprise of Gon, and he says Silver sent Killua here when he was only 6 years old and told him he could return home after reaching the 200th floor. Killua did that in 2 years, and he says he and Gon must not waste time, because in order to reach Hisoka, they have to move up to the higher floors where people like Hisoka are found. Gon understands, although he's still nervous about what they're going to be doing here. Then an announcement is made over the PA, and it calls fighters number 1973 and 2055 to enter Ring E. Gon is fighter 2055. And just as he stands to leave, Killua gives him some advice for what he has to do during the match. The hint being, since he went through the testing, the hint is based on Gon having gone through the testing gates. So fighter 1973 is this large muscular man, and the people who are watching the match, they just can't believe that he's facing off against the child that is Gon, and they tell Gon to leave before he gets hurt. So this should be an easy win for the man. The referee who's presiding over the match, he tells the two fighters that on this floor of Heaven's Arena, the matches are for evaluation to determine the skill levels of the competitors. He gives Gon and his opponent 3 minutes. The match begins, and fighter 1973 rushes for Gon, who dodges the first strike, and then, without even moving from where he's standing, simply pushes the big man away with his right hand, but with enough force to send this man flying all the way to one of the stands in the distance, much to people's surprise, and much to Gon's surprise, because he can't believe he used that much power in such a simple push. Killua gives him the thumbs up, and then the official gives Gon a special ticket, tells him to move up to the 50th floor. Killua, who is fighter 2054, stands up for his match against fighter 2039, which will take place in ring A. But the match is over in an instant. From the moment Killua stands up, the next panel is Killua being announced the winner, and the official who's presiding over the match, he notes that Killua has been here before and went up to the 200th floor, So he's about to give Killua a ticket for the 180th floor. But Killua says, oh no, he's just taking his time. He wants to go to the 50th floor. For the audience, they've just seen another unbelievable kid in action. And then a third kid is shown winning his match. This short-haired boy wearing a karate gi who is also moving up to the 50th floor. Hunter x Hunter fans reading this, watching this, following this series, you know who that is. And this is how we come to an end for Volume 5, Chapter 44, ending with the beginning of one of the best story arcs in Hunter x Hunter, because this is the story arc where we find out about Nen. But those of you who are new to Hunter x Hunter, don't worry about that. You'll find out about Nen when we get into Volume 6. So, that being said, now let's get into the final portion of this episode, where I just wanted to give a few words about the state of Hunter x Hunter now. Because as of Chapter 400, which came out some weeks ago, late last year, Hunter x Hunter is back on hiatus. Unfortunately, because just a couple of episodes ago, I was just celebrating that Hunter x Hunter is back, and I was looking forward to seeing how far it would go. Would it cover the rest of the current story arc? Unfortunately not. And at the end of chapter 400, there was this announcement that was put. If you are watching the video version, you'll see the page now. I'll put the page in the show notes so that you can read it. But this is what it says. Hunter x Hunter special announcement. Thank you for reading Hunter x Hunter. After discussions between Togashi sensei and the editorial staff concerning his health, it has been decided that future installments of Hunter x Hunter will no longer be released under the same old weekly serialization model. Togashi sensei will still pen the remaining story of Hunter x Hunter to its completion with the help of the editorial team. However, the particulars of how and when these future chapters will be released will be clarified in a future issue of Shonen Jump. Once again, thank you for reading. Signed, the Shonen Jump editorial staff. So at this point, there hasn't been a release of the next chapter of Hunter x Hunter, so no idea when chapter 401 will be released, but hopefully it won't be years from now. No idea what the state of Togashi's health is at this point, but I'm just trying to guess what kind of schedule will Hunter x Hunter be following now. Will it be moved to one of the monthly magazines, like what happened with two other former Jump titles? You might have heard of them, D. Greyman and World Trigger. Now, D. Greyman started in 2004. It was in Jump, but because of the mangaka's health, Katsura Hoshino, because of her health problems, it was put on hiatus many times, and then eventually it was moved out of Jump to Jump Square, and then one of the spin-off magazines, Jump Square Crown, and then to the current magazine, Jump Square Rise, which is released quarterly. And I just thought it was a little interesting because in that magazine when I checked, there were only 4 mangas that are released in that magazine. It was D. Greyman and one other title which I recognized, which is Beat the Vandal Buster. Maybe you might have heard of it. So that's where D. Greyman is. World Trigger, which was created by Daisuke Ashihara, debuted in Weekly Jump in 2013. All the way up until 2016, and then went on a hiatus because he also had some health problems and was on hiatus until 2018. He was in Jump for some weeks and then moved to Jump Square in December of that year, and that's where it has been released monthly ever since. So I've just been, just guessing maybe Hunter x Hunter, will it be moved to one of the monthly magazines? Will it be released in Jump, but not maybe once in a while? I'm not sure, because so far what has been happening was Togashi would come back from hiatus, put out 10 chapters, which would be enough to be collected in a volume, and then go on hiatus again. Sorry about that. I had to just rush to the gate because someone had shown up, so I had to pause and rush over there. But as I was saying, I'm just trying to figure out what this new schedule for Hunter x Hunter will be, and hopefully whatever that schedule will be will work out, and there won't be any more hiatuses, because this new schedule will help out Togashi. So anyway, this is where we come to the end of the episode. A lot happened in this episode. I think this is going to go over 2 hours because this volume was super packed, and I just wanted to get everything noted down, but I think I've covered everything. The Hunter exam, the arc is over, or is it, according to Satotsu, and now we've begun the next major story arc, the Heaven's Arena. So I hope you're looking forward to that, and for those of you who are old fans of Hunter x Hunter, to be a chance to go back into this in the story arc, and then you can find out if it still holds up after all these years. So for the next episode, we'll be looking at One Piece Volume 5. So those of you who are following One Piece as well, please look forward to that. For those of you who are just here for Hunter x Hunter, I'll speak to you again in episode 12 of the MultiMangaverse. So thank you for listening. If you'd like to support the series, all the links are in the description. All the information is there, my contact details and everything. It's all there as usual. Thanks for listening. Catch you in the next episode. Take care.